while Trevor Lawrence, being the #1 overall pick in the 2021 NFL Draft coming out of Clemson, was highly labeled and regarded by many people as a generational quarterback to the likes of names of Andrew Luck, Peyton Manning, and John Elway coming out of college. And while those expectations were put onto his shoulders at a fairly young age, and whether they were put onto him fairly or unfairly, Trevor Lawrence did not live up to expectations and play up to par in his rookie season. Trevor Lawrence showed an immense amount of talent and flashes and potential of what he could potentially be moving forward just at 22 years of age. And he showed a lot of leadership qualities that you want to see out of a franchise quarterback in his first season in the league. There was a lot of adversity and there was a lot of things that hindered his ability to have success at the next level. But Trevor Lawrence, I'm here to talk about today. What are fair expectations for Mr. Trevor Lawrence heading into year 2 in the NFL, and what can NFL and Jaguars fans expect out of Trevor Lawrence, aka Mr. Sunshine, this upcoming season? Now, I'm going to break this video down into 3 parts. I'm going to be talking about his rookie season in the first part. I'm going to be talking about some of the offseason moves in the second part. And then in the last part of the video, I'll talk about his ceiling and floor heading into year 2, as well as my final verdict for Trevor Lawrence heading into year 2 and what I actually expect out of him. But before we begin in today's video, if you guys could, drop me a like. It takes 1 second and it helps me and the channel out tremendously. And if you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more NBA and of course Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure y'all go follow me on my socials, especially on Twitter. I'm very active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below for y'all. Now let's get into today's video. The first part of this video is going to come with Trevor Lawrence, Mr. Sunshine's rookie season. Now, Trevor Lawrence, statistically speaking, not just in the NFL last year, but when you look at a generational quarterback prospect, he had statistically one of the worst seasons by a rookie quarterback in NFL history. Trevor Lawrence finished off his rookie campaign with 3,641 yards passing, 12 touchdowns to 17 interceptions. He had a 59.6 completion percentage and just a 33.5 QBR on a scale of 1 to 100, so not very good there. Now, when you look at Trevor Lawrence's rookie season in its totality, he was not put in a position to succeed. The Jaguars did not do a great job addressing the coaching staff that was going to be able to put him and a young quarterback in the best position to succeed. They hired a first-year NFL coach in Urban Meyer, and we all understand how that experiment went. I don't even need to get into that. But then also, when you look at the other guys on the offensive side of the ball, from Darrell Bevell not being that great of an offensive coordinator, the immense amount of injuries you had on the offensive side of the ball, from guys like James Robinson to Jamal Agnew, Travis Etienne having a Liz Frank injury, Dan Arnold, the list goes on. There was an immense amount of injuries. The coaching staff was incompetent and didn't put himself into the best position to succeed. And then when you also look at the fact that receivers were running wrong routes, a lot of guys were not on the same page as Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence was not set up to succeed in his first season with a middle of the pack offensive line, an average running game at best, even though James Robinson averaged 4.7 yards per carry. While he was healthy, the Jaguars moved away from the running game a lot of times, even when it was working. The Jaguars needed to do a lot better in his rookie season in order to put Trevor Lawrence in the best position to succeed. And while Trevor Lawrence did not play up to par, he did show flashes of his ability. Trevor Lawrence's 2 best plays, in my opinion, from his rookie season came one in week 4 versus the Cincinnati Bengals, when you saw he threw an absolute dime and a dot to Jamal Agnew across the side of the field. This was absolutely placed in the perfect position, the way Trevor Lawrence was able to utilize his feet, get out of the pocket, and make an absolute dime over the top of the defense and put that ball in a position to where only Jamal Agnew was able to get that ball. And then you also saw flashes of great ability where Trevor Lawrence in week 18 versus the Indianapolis Colts, probably the best play of his young NFL career so far. You see Trevor Lawrence at the goal line, and the ball is a high snap. Trevor Lawrence is able to grab the ball, maintain composure while being rushed at, and still have control of the ball, have control of the situation, get the ball out on time in order to hit Marvin Jones in the back of the end zone. This was a phenomenal play, and this really showed Trevor Lawrence's ability and what he's capable of moving forward. And another thing that just doesn't get talked about enough is really his leadership qualities in which he possessed, and the adversity he went through and the roadblocks he went through in his rookie season. You cannot teach leadership and having a sense of camaraderie and having the ability to galvanize other players and other coaches in your locker room in order to keep these guys together, something Trevor Lawrence was able to do consistently time in and time out through all of the adversity, and while the Jaguars were in the news for all the wrong reasons, and Trevor Lawrence was a huge reason as to why that locker room was able to stay together. Now, when we fast forward into the offseason with the moves that the Jaguars made, the Jaguars probably had the busiest offseason of their young franchise's career, and I'm not taking that lightly. The Jaguars hired a Super Bowl winning head coach in Doug Peterson. They go and hire offensive coordinator Press Taylor. They go and get quarterbacks coach Mike McCoy. Then they go and add a lot of players on the offensive side of the ball, signing all-pro guard Brandon Scherff, ranked as the third best interior offensive lineman by ESPN's power rankings this offseason. They go and get Evan Ingram. They go and acquire Zay Jones. They go and acquire Christian Kirk. And they also are getting a huge integrative piece back to their offense, coming back off of injury, and Travis Etienne, who the Jaguars did not get to see in his rookie season due to that Liz Frank injury. Then you get guys like Jamal Agnew coming back off hip injury, Dan Arnold coming back off of injury. You re-sign Cam Robinson, and the list goes on. The Jaguars are doing a much better position, not only with the coaching staff, but with the players that they've acquired this offseason in order to put Trevor Lawrence in a position to succeed. And the reason I bring up the coaching staff really is not only because coaching is so indicative and so important and vital to the success of a young team, especially a young quarterback. You got to look at the psychological effect of that, and it applies to everyday people like me and you. When you go into work and you have a boss and somebody that you actually care about and who actually seems to be putting in the work and is trying to make the best work environment and workspace for not just you, but all of your other coworkers, it helps create that kind of environment that gets guys pushing to become the best versions of themselves, and everyone buys into a system. It's exactly why Doug Peterson is so important to what the Jacksonville Jaguars and what Trevor Lawrence are going to be able to do. And then the last part of this video is going to come with my expectations and also my ceiling and floor for Trevor Lawrence heading into year 2. Now, Trevor Lawrence's floor, let's start there. I believe his floor is almost damn near identical to his rookie campaign. Now, hear me out, because I know that sounds super pessimistic. What I'm saying is, in terms of statistical evaluation, I think his numbers for his floor would be about relatively the same, except for the fact is, I think that he's learned and grown. He's not going to have as many turnovers. He's going to cut back on that. Plus, his touchdown to interception ratio would probably be flipped if I had to guess. So my floor for Trevor Lawrence in year 2 would probably be about 35 to 3,600 yards, 20 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, which is really, in all honesty, I think that's not a horrendous floor, but it's not what you want to see out of the #1 overall pick and the way we know Trevor Lawrence is capable of. But that's why I'm saying that's his absolute floor heading into year 2. Now let's talk about his ceiling. His ceiling to me would be somewhere identical to Carson Wentz's level of success that he had in 2017 while he was the front-running MVP candidate prior to him going down with his ACL injury. Now, Carson Wentz in 2017 was 11-2 before he went down with that ACL injury. 3,296 yards passing, 33 touchdowns to 7 interceptions, and had a QBR of 78.5, which I believe was leading the league at the time prior to his injury. But when you look at that and you look at that level of success, if I had to compare that to Trevor Lawrence and say his absolute ceiling for this year, I'd say it would probably be about 4,200 yards, about 30 to 32 touchdowns, as well as about 10 to 11 interceptions. I think having a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio while throwing and amassing 4,000 yards in a season is something very realistic as well for a guy like Trevor Lawrence, while still getting that level of production and still cutting back on those turnovers, because we saw a lot of growth out of him in his rookie season. He's not just a gunslinger. He can obviously use his legs and get out of the pocket, but also his pocket awareness eventually got better. It's something he still needs to work on. And also he was just learning to take the check down, something he wasn't really doing in the first couple of weeks of his rookie campaign. But Trevor Lawrence, that's why I got him at his ceiling. Now, my actual prediction for Trevor Lawrence heading into year 2, and something that I think is a lot more reasonable and feasible for a guy like Trevor Lawrence this upcoming season, is probably somewhere around 3,800 yards passing. I'd say about 25 touchdowns in the air, maybe 3-4 rushing touchdowns using his legs as well too, because I think he's very capable of that, and still about 10 to 11 interceptions. I still think he's going to be a double-digit interception guy. I think he's going to get about 25, 26 passing yard touchdowns, and he's going to be damn near 30 total touchdowns when it's all said and done, and just under 4,000 yards passing. I don't think that that's being pessimistic, but I don't think that's being overly optimistic even in a Doug Peterson system. I do have him finishing with about these numbers strictly off the fact that I think that this is going to be a run-first centric team. When I look at the 2017 Eagles and how they were productive, and even though I can see him having a Carson Wentz type of successful season like Carson Wentz did in 2017 prior to his ACL injury. Let's look at the Eagles' ranks in 2017 and how they were able to accomplish everything. They were 3rd in offensive points per game, 3rd in rushing offense, 13th in passing yards, and number 1 in passing touchdowns. The Jaguars have very similar skill set players to that Eagles offense. But when you look at the Eagles 2017 skill position players on the offensive side of the ball, they're very similar in terms of the dynamics and the type of players to this Jaguars offense right now. When you look at the tight end room, you look at Brent Selleck and Zach Ertz. The Jaguars have Dan Arnold, and they've got a guy in Evan Ingram now. When you look at the running back room with James Robinson and Travis Etienne, you look at guys like Darren Sproles as well as Jay Ajayi before his injury, and then LeGarrette Blount as well too, who was a huge part to that Super Bowl run as well too. Then the receiver room with Nelson Aguilar and Alshon Jeffrey and those type of guys. The Jags have guys like Marvin Jones Jr. and Christian Kirk and Zay Jones and Laviska Shenault, and the list goes on. The Jaguars have very similar quarterbacks and dynamic skill position players that are reminiscent of the 2017 Eagles offense. Not projecting the Jaguars to go 11-2. Not projecting the Jaguars to finish 13-4. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying when you look at it on paper and what the Jaguars are able to present, I see a lot of similarities between that Doug Peterson team right now and Doug Peterson's 2017. So I do think that Trevor Lawrence throwing about 3,800 yards, having 25 to 26 touchdowns in the air, getting a couple with his legs, as well as still probably having just over double-digit interceptions, is a pretty fair expectation to what you're going to see out of Trevor Lawrence this season. You're going to see a lot of RPO, something he's very comfortable with, something he did a lot of this past season, but also he did a lot of with Dabo Swinney at Clemson, something Doug Peterson has had a lot of success with guys like Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts, as well as Nick Foles. Doug Peterson knows how to get a quarterback to play to their best potential, and I believe Trevor Lawrence will be able to do that. It's going to take some time. There's going to be some growing pains, but I think you're going to see a significantly better Trevor Lawrence heading into year 2. But Jaguar fans and NBA fans, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you expect out of Trevor Lawrence year 2? What are some fair and realistic expectations you have for Trevor Lawrence heading into this season? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. And like I said, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure you guys drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me in the channel out tremendously. And if you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more NBA and of course Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure y'all go follow me on my socials, especially on Twitter. Like I said earlier, I'm very active and I'm on there every single day, really trying to grow that Twitter following. But Jags Nation, man, thank y'all for sticking around throughout the whole video, man. BJ Mafia, y'all seriously all the best, man. I love each and every one of y'all. Thank y'all for always supporting me. But Brett James, aka BJ, I'm out, y'all. Go Jags, baby. Peace.